Thank you very much. Kindly take your seats. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural lecture of Professor Augustine Tanle. He is a professor of migration and refugee studies. This afternoon, he would be presenting on the topic, Interrogating North-South Seasonal Labor Migration in Ghana as a Livelihood Strategy. You're most welcome. My name is Akusiachi Saki, and I'll be moderating this event. I'll call on Reverend Father Mark Quinning to do us the honors by giving us the opening prayer. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Please, shall we rise? Shall we pray? God of wisdom and love, giver of all good things, we thank you for everyone gathered here. We thank you for your love and kindness and for your constant care over all creation. We thank you that you know each of us by name. We bless you for the gift of life, for your guiding hand upon us, and your sustaining love within us. Father, Lord, we thank you for your servant, Professor Augustine Tanle, the fruit of whose labor we gather here today. We give you thanks for his vision and wisdom. We know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. Our prayer today is that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. Let your will be done through this event. Take what your servant has prepared and multiply his efforts as only you can. Steer the affairs of this gathering and let our intentions be aligned with your righteous will. Keep love at the forefront of our minds today and the guiding light for all we set out to accomplish and celebrate, and cause us to walk with you and with you alone. And we make our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ with thanksgiving. Amen.
And we shall remain standing as we take the UCC anthem.
Never teach
much. Kindly take your seats. Distinguished guests, I have the singular honor of introducing the chair for this afternoon's inaugural lecture. He is a pharmacist and a biomedical scientist, a Ghana College of Pharmacists Fellow, a Japan International Cooperation Agency JICA Scholar, and a Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research CV Roman Scholar. He is a member of the Association of African Universities and has consulted worldwide on community pharmacy practice. Our chair is also a member of numerous international and local professional bodies. He has taught at various levels and supervised a number of MPhil and PhD students from different backgrounds. He has climbed through the ranks of this university and has been at the forefront of academic leadership in key areas. Presently, the Vice Chancellor of University of Cape Coast. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Professor Johnson Nyako Bwampong.
Thank you, MC. Mr. Jephte Emmanuel Onyame, Registrar, University of Cape Coast. Nana Kweku Enu, the third, Maria Hin of Oga Traditional Area, Pro-Vice Chancellors of Sister Universities, Registrars of Sister Universities, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Adobin, former Vice Chancellor, UCC, Professor Didi Kupori, former Vice Chancellor, UCC, Professor Joseph Gate-Ampia, former Vice Chancellor, UCC, Nananom, Professor Victor Patrick Yagajipo, former President, Central University, Professor Joshua Owusu-Setre, former Vice Chancellor, Cape Coast Technical University, Professor John Nelson Boa, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, UCC, Professor George K.T. Odro, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, UCC, Professor Dora Francisca Edubuando, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, UCC, Provost, Deans, Directors of Academic and Administrative Units, Heads of Department and Heads of Hall, Members of Convocation, Representative of Most Reverend John Afuakwa, Catholic Bishop of Obuasi, Captain Simon Akubre, Representative of Tom Zindangana, Mr. Anthony Yabua Tabri, National Registrar, National House of Chiefs, Kumasi, staff and students, distinguished invited guests, friends in the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of Governing Council, management, students and staff of the University of Cape Coast, I welcome you to today's professorial inaugural lecture to be delivered by Professor Augustine Tanle. We wish to extend a hearty welcome to all our special guests, families, and friends of Professor Tanle. We say, Akwaba, we appreciate your presence and support. Distinguished invited guests, within the academy, inaugural lectures provide the occasion for universities to acknowledge the appointment or promotion of academics to the rank of professor, introduce them, and provide them with the opportunity to engage with the university community. An inaugural lecture is therefore a significant milestone in academic career, recognizing their promotion to professor. Ladies and gentlemen, these lectures form a key part of the traditions of the University of Cape Coast, where we create the platform to enable our astute professors to showcase to the university-wide audience their research or their perspectives on issues of interest to them. Each lecture provides an opportunity for academics to share, among others, their achievement in research, innovation, engagement, and teaching activities before an audience of members of the university community and the general public. As you already know, it is the only time an academic gets to profess what he knows or thinks without being questioned. Though Professor Augustine Tanle was promoted to the professorial rank in 2018, it is today that he would celebrate this important personal milestone with a broad audience, including members of the public, family, friends, and colleagues, both old and new. Professor Augustine Tanle will synthesize his scholarship and contribution to knowledge in his field of specialization, which is migration and refugee studies, in the inaugural lecture captioned Interrogating North-South Seasonal Labor Migration in Ghana as a Livelihood Strategy. Professor Tanle will deliver the lecture in a simplified manner so that individuals who do not belong to the same field with him will understand what he has come to say. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Augustine Tanle, before Professor Augustine Tanle steps forward to deliver his inaugural lecture, permit me to read his profile. Professor Augustine Tanle is a professor of Migration and Refugee Studies in the Department of Population and Health, the University of Cape Coast. He started his primary school education at Sunyane Urban Council, but due to the death of his father in 1976, he completed middle school in 1979 at the Tom Local Authority School at Nandom Tom in the then Upper Region, now Upper West Region. He had his secondary education in 1980 at Boris Secondary School in the Northern Region, now Savannah Region. Completed his GCE ordinary level in 1985 and proceeded to Nandom Secondary School from 1985 to 1987 for his GCE advanced level. He gained, He gained admission into the University of Cape Coast in 1990, where he obtained his BA Social Sciences, Geography major, and Diploma in Education in 1994. He taught at Ola Girls Secondary School, Kenyase, in the Esutifi South District from 1994 to 1999. In 1999, Professor Tanle returned to the University of Cape Coast to pursue Master of Philosophy program and completed in 2003. He has been in the University of Cape Coast since July 2004 as a lecturer in the then Department of Geography and Tourism. He enrolled in a PhD program in 2005 in the same department. And in the course of his program, he was promoted to the rank of senior lecturer in October 2009. He completed a PhD in 2010. In April 2014, Professor Tanle was promoted to the rank of associate professor and finally to a professor in August 2018. And we were in Atlantic together. Professor Tanle teaches courses in migration and development, population movement, refugee studies, among others, at both the undergraduate and postgraduate levels in the Department of Population and Health and the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Over the years, he has served as a supervisor, internal and external examiner for both MPhil and PhD theses in his department and other departments within the Faculty of Social Sciences, UCC, and the following universities: University of Ghana, Legon; University of Development Studies, Tamale; Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi. He has so far supervised more than 15 MPhil and 5 PhD students who have completed their thesis successfully. He has examined more than 30 MPhil and 18 PhD theses. Currently, he is supervising 9 PhD students. He's done well. Former PhD students of Professor Tanle are now in various universities. It means that they've completed. And some of them are lecturers, senior lecturers, and even associate professors. Professor Tanle's research interests or areas are migration, livelihood, development, gender and migration, refugee studies, and indigenous development. He has expertise in qualitative research methodologies, but often adopts pragmatism as his research philosophy. Professor Tanle has, to his credit, 48 articles published in reputable journals, 3 book chapters, and 3 research or technical reports. He's a reviewer of the Ghana Journal of Geography, University of Ghana, the Inaugural Journal of Social Sciences, University of Cape Coast, and ad hoc reviewer of Social Science and Medicine, Ghana Journal of Development Studies, and Ghana Journal of International Development. Professor Tanle is external assessor to universities within and outside the country. Professor Tanle has, through research networks with colleagues, won some projects, both local and international, for which he has worked as a co-investigator or a member of the research team. Professor Tanle has attended and presented papers at both local and international conferences. Professor Tanle has held a number of positions and also served on boards and committees within and outside the University of Cape Coast. He is currently on his second term as the Vice Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences. That is, he started 2020 and to 2024. We are yet to get to the 2024. He is the professorial representative on the College of Humanities and Legal Studies Appointments and Promotion Boards. He is an academic board representative on the Status Review Committee. He was the head of the Department of Population and Health, that from 2014 to 2019. The College of Humanities and Legal Studies representative on the Academic Board 2016 to 2019. The Convocation representative on Housing Committee 2009 to 2015. And the University of Cape Coast representative on the Governing Council of Nusrat Jahan Ahmadiyya College of Education, WA, 2013 to 2016, and again 2019 to 2022. He has contributed to the revision and development of new academic programs in the department and faculty, which include the revised BA, MA, MPhil, and PhD in Population and Health. New programs such as MPhil and PhD in Biostatistics, Epidemiology, and the establishment of the Center for Mixed Migration and Diaspora Studies, which he hosted in the Department of Population and Health. Professor Tanle has also engaged in consultancy services with the Ghana Statistical Service as a consultant to guide writers of the 2010 Population and Housing Census, district reports for Western Region, Central and Greater Accra Region, and also as a reviewer of the 2021 PhD thematic report on urbanization. He also served as a member on a number of teams constituted by the National Accreditation Board, GTEC, to assess academic programs of some universities in the country. He is married to Mrs. Angelina Tanle, and they have 2 children. I want you to mention the names yourself on the camera. So thank you for your attention.
Ahead of the presentation, I would call on Mercy Achianu from the Department of Music to give us an interlude. Please welcome her.
Oh my God, what shall I render to thy name? Still the same, gracious Lord, to thee I raise my song of praise. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy love for me. I will ever sing thy praise. Great is thy faithfulness. Oh thy faithfulness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to listen to the lecture, which is on the topic Interrogating North-South Seasonal Labor Migration in Ghana as a Livelihood Strategy. Let's welcome our speaker, Professor Augustine Tanle.
So is he control or I'm controlling it? Okay. You put this on for the time. Oh, so. No, you leave it a bit here. I will use it. Yeah. Okay, we'll switch. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity to present my inaugural lecture. I want to associate myself with the protocol established. My topic is interrogating North-South seasonal labor migration in Ghana as a livelihood strategy. This is the overview of my presentation, definition of the concepts and characteristics of migrants. Then we have some theoretical perspectives on migration, drivers of North-South labor migration, contextual issues are needed, implications of North-South seasonal labor migration, migration and vulnerability, and North-South seasonal labor migration as a livelihood strategy, conclusion, policy, recommendation, and contributions. Yes, so introduction. Motivation for migration studies. Why migration studies? So many areas in population and health. Why migration studies? So, it is possible for some people to guess, per my origin. The five regions in the northern sector of Ghana, the then Northern Territory, as it is said in the colonial era. It used to be 3 regions in the northern sector of the country. Today, we have 5 regions in the northern sector of the country. And I want to repeat, 5 regions in the northern sector of the country. Why am I repeating? You will hear the time that we had 10 regions, they will say the 3 northern regions. No. Now, some are still saying 5 northern regions. No. 5 regions in the northern sector of the country. It might be long, but let's go that extra mile and say the right thing. We don't have 5 northern regions. You heard from the Vice Chancellor, I majored in geography, so don't be surprised. I should be able to say the right thing per my background. So, sorry, but expect this from me. So, and these areas are known as out-migration areas. what do we mean by an out-migration area? An area that have more outflow than inflow of population. So that is referred to. So all these 5 up there are out-migration areas. Although we have, for the 2010 census, we have the Volta and Central included, and the 2021 census, we even have other regions also having the negative net migration. Negative net migration means more outflow than inflow. That is why it is negative. Greater Accra, for instance, we have more inflow than outflow. So Greater Accra have positive net migration. Ashanti region, positive net migration. The former Bonahafo region, positive net migration. And it should be obvious. So we have, in terms of motivation for the area, my parents, within the context, my parents were migrants. So I'm a progeny of a migrant. I'm a progeny of a migrant. And I can see fellow migrants, progenies here. But I leave it to themselves. I have identified myself. So I am a progeny. Yes, I am a progeny. So my parents were migrants who settled at Sunyani. You heard my urban council, Sunyani. That is my school. Others will say the school. This is the school for me. Yes. So then, as is mentioned, too early for us. We lost our father. So our parents gave birth to us at Sunyani. And then, unfortunately, too early, 1976, we have to have an involuntary return migration back home. I hope you are following the expression. Involuntary. It means we would have wished to continue to be in Sunyani. There that I saw the spatial differences. You understand geographical expression. Space. Characteristics, socio-demographic, the physical characteristics there as compared to the then Bonahafo region. I saw the difference. Wow. Then I appreciated what migration meant and why the flow from that area, the then Laura district, now Nando municipality, flow. And for that matter, the 5 regions in the northern sector of Ghana, why they flow. I appreciated that. The flow is just as simple as this. People always move from areas that are less endowed with resources to areas that are more endowed with resources. And that is why you have the north-south migration, internal migration, as the major migration pattern in Ghana. You go global, international, you have sub-Saharan Africa, you have Asia, and then we have Latin America, we have Caribbeans. They are all moving to the resource, where resources are, the more developed. So we have the international version. So that made me to go the motivation for migration studies. Then I will also add, in this era, you see, if you look at population, components of population change, population can change through 3 key areas: fertility, birth, mortality, death, and migration. You see, currently, total fertility globally is declining. Do you need somebody to tell you to have fewer number of children? In Ghana, it used to be, in 1998, Demographic and Health Survey, it was 6.4%, 6.4 children per woman. At the end of her fertility period, she is expected to have had 6.4 children. The 21 population and housing census is saying that it's now 3.1. So fertility in sub-Saharan Africa, including Ghana, are declining. So it is mortality, with the exception of these occasional epidemics. Ebola, then we have COVID-19. Mortality levels are also down. Look at the infant, look at the child, look at the under 5, and maternal mortality. They are all on the decline. But migration, human population movement, has become a global issue. It has become a global issue. So that adds to the interest. So the interest is now even higher than before. of migration. So that's the motivation for migration. The issue of migration is also noted since the time of creation. In the Bible and through the help of colleagues, I got it exactly as it is. Please, where the comma is I put the comma there. So please, you can read it yourself, please. And I had the Quran too as it is. As it is. So I just put it down as it is. So it means that the phenomena has existed over the years. Now, there are also philosophical statements on migration. A number of, I wanted to get as many as possible, but it was not possible. The Akan philosophical statement, there are many of them. Among other things, the Akan will say, Anuman Tua. So I leave it to you. I leave it to you. Then I like the fancy one. So let me take time with the fancy one, because otherwise I will use the Sunyani type of Akan tree. The fancy will say, and Nana is here. I had some correction, but I will try. The fancy will say, Enyin. Esin there, Echin. Nana, am I okay? Enyin. No, Echin there, Enyin. Am I okay? So, look at the issue of Esin there. If it is a Sunyata, Echin say, Esin there. That Esin there is loaded. That Esin there, exposure. Exposure is associated with resources, socio-cultural capital, political capital. All these are associated with exposure. Now, I am also told for the northern part, in terms of among most northern ethnic groups, I'm also told that they usually make a statement with respect to the dominant geographical feature in the area. Let me just give an example. This is where I am, and this is the key, the sea. So, among northern brothers and sisters, they may say that, do you think I'm here to admire the sea? I'm here for business. Action. Yes, so if it is the forest area, which I'm familiar and so started my education there, do you think we are here to admire the forest? We are there for business. And that is why, wherever you find out, you at times see, they support the view that migrants are, in a number of situations, you see migrants doing better than the indigens. Migrants will do everything to justify the years that they've been away. So, that is the aspect in terms of migration. So, migration is an important phenomenon in human life since time immemorial. Previously, there was non-sedentary life. And that non-sedentary life is consistent with the philosophical statement. You have to move to identify and get some wild fruits to harvest. Even today that we are having sedentary life, migration is going on. In fact, the 21st century literature points to the fact that we are in an era of a greater population movement, unprecedented by recorded history. Unprecedented. So migration is a key issue now. And then we also have, you see, 90% of internal migration, 90% of all migration is internal in Ghana. In the northern Ghana, have more than 75% of households. In fact, it has become part and parcel of the culture of the North. So that migration. Now look at definition of concept. In the literature, we scholars in area of migration, we have not had a generally accepted definition. So there is no specific definition on migration. Over the years, as a teacher, I have been able to look at the concept with a number of factors. Now, migration involves space. It's a spatial phenomenon a phenomena, and the space here means point of origin, point of destination. If you want, the 5 regions in the northern sector of the country as origin, and the rest of the 11 are areas of destination. So migration, that is the spatial element. Space, a point of origin, and a point of destination. And this is consistent with Carl Ritter's conceptualization of space. Then, so for migration definition, the issue of space is relevant. The second element that I consider in my definition of migration is the issue of time, temporary, so spatio-temporal element. So in terms of the time element helps us to know whether we are dealing with permanent or temporary migration. And migration also involves a change of the usual place of residence. Change of the usual place of residence. And then lastly, the issue of boundary. So if I have these 4 elements, then it means that I can have a definition of migration, which I've coined for myself over the year for my students. It may be defined as a spatial movement involving a permanent or temporary change of place of usual residence across a geographical or political boundary. We need a geographical or political boundary so that we can have the other details, so that we know whether we are dealing with international or internal migration. And within the internal, which of them are we dealing with? We can have urban, we can have rural, we can have urban-rural, and we can have rural-urban. So the boundary also help us in the zoning of the concept. So this makes migration different. And let me add that mobility is different from migration. Migration is a subset of mobility. So I would prefer to say cross-border mobility, not cross-border migration. Because the cross-border, there are other issues involved. For instance, somebody is sleeping at one side of the boundary, the international boundary, but farming across. This person doesn't change the usual place of residence. So preferably, it should be cross-border mobility, so that some are migration, some are not migration. They qualify to be. For instance, you are here, and mobility refers to the general population, a human population movement. You left your offices and you are here. It's part of mobility. It's not migration. It's part of mobility. Your offices, journey to work, journey to the market, journey to all those areas that you move, thank God, is part of mobility and not migration. So we have that in terms of the concept. Northern and Southern Ghana. So Northern and Southern Ghana. Ghana in terms of latitudinal stretch. Latitudinal stretch, take it that is the sea. Ghana in terms of latitudinal stretch is from 4 degrees some minutes and seconds up to 11 degrees some minutes and seconds. So it is 4 up to 11. Northern Ghana is from 8, latitude 8 degrees north to latitude 11 degrees. So that is the boundary. That is the area that I refer to as north in my work, in this presentation, Northern Ghana, the then Northern Territory in the colonial time. And this comprises of these regions, the Upper West, Upper East, Northern Savannah, and Upper East regions. Upper West, Upper East, Northern Savannah, and Northeast regions. While the Southern Ghana comprises the remaining 11. Internal migration, internal movement within the national boundary of a country, and is often classified as rural, and all those details. So some characteristics, at least I have to give some characteristics about migrants. And from my seasonal migrants, and from my research, in line with other colleagues in migration studies, I have put down that of mine, but I recognize the work of Sonsori, Dienkebe, Anefi, Kwanchi, and all that. But this is where I have also done over the years. So we see that in terms of the characteristics, they are males, both males, males and females, they age 15 years and above, single or married, no formal education or limited level of education, or some have dropped out from school. So this from the literature. Some colleagues have done that, and these are also addition to what? Occupation. They are mostly peasant farmers at the place of origin. Jobs engaged at the destination are agriculture and non-agriculture. We shall see that aspect very soon. Now, the theoretical perspective on migration. These theories are relevant for a topic like this, and I have used them successfully in a number of my publications. So we are saying north-south seasonal labor migration. The first one is the push and pull theory of migration by Lee, 1966, and I've also applied it and works for me. The push and pull. So Lee conceptualized a theory that predisposed people to migrate from the origin to a destination, and he referred to them as the push and pull factor. Now I'm saying north-south. The push element are the socio-economic deterioration. The deteriorating socio-economic factors at the origin. That, as it were, literally push people out. And the pull attractions are those are the destinations that literally attract people to the destinations. We shall see some of them. So push-pull theory is relevant here because they are moving from a less endowed area in the north to more endowed area in southern part of Ghana. So the push-pull theory is relevant here. Migration network theory. Migration network is a composite of migration, interpersonal relations. And what does the migration network do? Migration network is purely about facilitating the migration process. Facilitating the migration process. We have returned migrants, current migrants at the destination, and potential migrants. So the interaction among this, in terms of network, borrowing it from the sociological concept of networks. So through the network serves as a facilitating mechanism, facilitating the migration process. So that a non-migrant, say at Nandom, will want to migrate to any part of the southern Ghana. This person may have information about at least somebody's phone number, and communication goes on in terms of the destination. Are things going on well? Then the interaction. And this non-migrant, when this non-migrant arrives, the initial support, food, accommodation, the one already at the destination does that. So the network can be such that you even have it that somebody can pre-fund. If you look at international migration, somebody can pre-fund. Some people migrate on credit. We migrate on credit abroad. You facilitate the whole, depending on the networks. Network, former classmates, community members, they facilitate. So all that migration network does, and if you put it in this context, both the female and male migration, the previous village that we went, that place was good. The food was there, the landlord took care of us, and this area that we are working as females, so the network, information flow, and that. And for females in particularly, where migration network exists, females feel more comfortable than their male counterpart because females are very careful. Males could go rough. Females are very careful. New economics of labor migration. It is also very relevant for a presentation like this. What is it all about? It is like household strategy. A household adopts a strategy so as to be able to move out of poverty. So the new economics of migration is a household strategy that a household could allow a member to migrate. So the household constitutes the social arena where migration decisions are taken. So that a member of good character could be funded using household resources to migrate. So that the remittances could move the household out of poverty or reduce the the level of poverty in the household. And this is very relevant in this context because we have both male and female, and at times a household may see that it's better for a female to migrate when the male or the spouse stays back. It's relevant here. Yes, we also have the pluralist perspective for migration. Let me say, for pluralist perspective for migration, we have optimist perspective for migration. Optimists are saying that migration necessarily lead to the socioeconomic of the individual and the household. Optimistic. Pessimist, migration rather is a drain to the able bodies from the origin. So it's a loss. And so these are the dimensions. Pluralist perspective, that combining the two and conceptualize it that migration, there are positive and negative outcomes associated with migration. And it is also consistent with the livelihood outcomes which came later on. And this particular topic, the outcome of north-south migration, is everything is not rosy. Negative implications, positive implications are there. So I found these four relevant for a topic like this. But looking at all this, we see that although they are very relevant, it is limited to only individual migrant and household members. But people have been migrating from the whole, since the colonial time, and then the area of origin has not developed. So these theories are mute when it comes to theory that want to look at the contribution of migration to the development of the community of origin. So, having said that, drivers of north-south seasonal labor migration. So, the colonial era. My colleagues in the history department can better say this than myself. So because of that, I didn't want trouble. I didn't go to the specific infrastructure facilities, specific schools and health facilities. I didn't go there. So during the colonial era, the colonial development policies on mining, agriculture, administration, education, especially Sir Gordon Gorge's 10-year development plan, it focused more of the development of southern Ghana. So you see, colleagues in the history will even say it better than I do. It led to the development of southern sector. This is the point that I am starting with the issue of inequality, as mentioned several times by Professor David Tvucc last year. So the element of, last week, the element of inequality, north-south inequality, is also a common thread running through. And that shows the picture in which we have now. So you see that during the colonial era, that part of Northern Territory, so now I have to use Northern Territory because of the colonial element. Northern Territory, as at that time, was seen as an area that was destitute in terms of resources. There were no resources there. So the North, as at that time, was good to only serve as a labor reservoir. Labor reservoir. So the then regional commissioners were mandated. Commissioner this, district commissioner, you are supplying this number of men, able-bodied men, to Takwa, Obuasi, or Prisia by this time. And one of them added, otherwise you will see fire. You will see fire. So as at that time, the development of the North, it was not the interest of the colonial government because there were no resources. Look at the one that follow. The region, as far as I know, destitute of mineral resources. It is destitute of valuable timber, rubber, cola, nut, trade, and all that. And the one which follows is even more powerful. I will not at present spend upon the Northern Territories a single penny more than is necessary for suitable administration and encouragement of the transit zone. So expenditure is on administrative machines of the north. In agriculture, they will say maintenance ration, just to maintain you that you continue surviving. And expenditure just enough to support survival. So you see that below that, I've indicated autonomous male migration. It was, what kind of migration was that? It was forced recruitment and transported to the mining sectors as laborers. Force. I'm combining both male and female migration. Initially, I said, let me do only the male. But I added at this level, and once I have been in this area, I should combine the two. So as of now, colonial era, male dominated the migration. Females were not visible in the migration equation. It was males. And it's so because the colonial era, you can imagine the type of job opportunities. Construction and others which require able-bodied human beings like men, who are really men. And even among men, able-bodied. So it means I'm out. So we have that. So this is the colonial policy concentration in the development of areas of Ghana where we have resources to the neglect of the Northern Territory. And the Northern Territory was only good for as labor reservoir. Post-colonial era, now we are ruling ourselves. And the post-independent government also continue with the government development agenda, the colonial government development agenda, with more focus on the southern than the northern. And up to this point, autonomous male migration continue. By the nature of the job opportunities over there, they are not female friendly, as may put it. Any example about the concentration? This is one of them. Structural Adjustment Program. SAP from 1983. Export promotion. Export promotion in terms of traditional and non-traditional export sectors were supported in terms of cocoa farmers, gold mine, and timber, small-scale gold, diamond, and all that. All these are crops in the southern or activities in southern Ghana without any support for production of any export crop in northern Ghana. Having said this, I am not oblivious of the fact that some governments have contributed to the development of northern Ghana. As a scholar, I have to balance it. I am not oblivious of that. There are a number of examples that you audience can mention. That is why I say those who are in the history can best present this than somebody like me in population and health. My dimension is not at this historical section. But from what I've learned, Kwame Nkrumah established Ghana Education Trust. And I learned the Ghana Education Trust, a number of schools were established in the northern Ghana to build the human capital for socio-economic development of the entire country. Again, Kwame Nkrumah also established a number of factories. Ready examples are, we have the meat and then the tomato at Bolga and Palugu, respectively. General Ignatius Kutu Achampong also did his part. And we have to also recognize that, which also benefited the northern sector through a number of agro-based industries. So we recognize that. Now, in spite of all this, if it is a balance sheet that we draw, we will say that it is not balanced. the focus is more of southern than northern. And here comes in the issue of inequality. More, even up to date, is more of southern than northern, given that. So this point summarizes all, from the colonial and post-colonial successive government. The point there, the outcome of all that is that the northern Ghana have limited socioeconomic opportunity and infrastructural development. So as a result of that, the inequality is obvious. We also have that, based on this inequality, we are building on it, we have widespread poverty and deprivations. The poverty, we shall see some tables to that effect. And these studies are not mine. We have the Ghana Statistical Service. We will see this table. It is the multidimensional poverty. And we have the National Development Planning Commission have also come out with poverty league table. The league table is like that the previous 3 regions in the northern sector, and now 5 regions in the northern sector of the country, they are always leading on top of the league table, poverty league table. No challenger. And it has been consistent. So we have poverty as a factor. Environmental factors also, in the number of publications, they indicate environmental factors, such as you see seasonal rainfall pattern, generally lateritic and accra soils as compared to the south. But this part is a bit debatable. You see, and that is why I have put determinism from the concept of this determinism and possibilism. So determinist school of thought and possibilist school of thought. You see, the determinist school of thought is that the environment determines the cultural life of man. And even a book was titled, or did a paper, The Influence of Environmental Factors, from the environmental determinist or determinism school of thought. But the issue of so that it means that it is the environment in the 5 regions in the northern sector that is dictating, and all that from the deterministic perspective, man need to just comply. From the determinist perspective, if you live by a large pool of water, you are naturally bound to be a fisherman. If you live in the forest area, you naturally, the environment dictates. Yours is just to comply. So, but the possibilities are saying no. The environment doesn't determine everything for man. Man's life can be, there are possibilities. There are possibilities. Even in the rugged terrain, rough, remote terrain, it is still possible. And I belong to the possibilist school of thought. Why? Let us just look at Burkina Faso. And I'm picking geography again. If this is the sea, rainfall in terms of commencement, amount, and duration decreases from the sea inland, which means that we, the 5 regions in the northern sector of the country, have better rainfall in terms of time of commencement, duration, and amount as compared to Burkina Faso and Mali. We have better, relatively fertile soil as compared to them. But the TV program is focused with Dr. Nyaba, is Executive Director of Peasant Farmers Association, that 90% of fresh tomatoes that we take in Ghana are from Burkina Faso. That area is have the characteristics we have better, but they are. So it is just in line with the possibility school of thought. Yes, so dry, so infertile, but it's possible to enhance and something good to come out from that. So, but among scholars, they say one of the drivers is environmental factors, and usually long dry season, fertile, infertile soils, and that. The other driver of north-south migration is sociocultural elements. In migration in sub-Saharan Africa, and even including Ghana, rite of passage, migration is seen as a rite of passage, like Bragro, Depot, and that. It's a rite of passage. You are expected to have migrated. It's also an evidence of maturity. You have grown. You can be on your own. You can take your own decision. So socioculturally, they expect that once a young man or young woman, you are expected to migrate. Don't think about marriage. Just migrate. Get that experience before so that you graduate. You need to graduate. And through migration, you will graduate properly. You will be somewhere, and maybe if you sleep outside and suffer where the next meal will come from, you will be a good person. You will be a good person. You will be fine. So that experience is expected. So we expect socioculturally rite of passage, and more so, one other sociocultural element is that marriage. We also see that socioculturally, marriage related, it is expected that you migrate, prepare yourself economically before you come to think about marriage, both male and female. So in sub-Saharan Africa, including Ghana, migration is a rite of passage, particularly for young people, and the movement is marriage-related. Now we have the other drivers of migration. Expanding of north-south migration, expanding services sector. The Ghana Statistical Service and other information available is telling us that the services sector is expanding. The services sector is expanding, and as a result of that, there are job opportunities for both males and females. So female migration then come in because there are job opportunities as kaya, as petty trading, and bar attendants, and in these areas like Sunyani, Techimai, Kumasi, Accra. We also have agricultural activities. Agricultural activities, and we look at cashew, mango, and cocoa plantation farming in these areas. In these areas, they provide opportunities for both sexes, male and female. Particularly at Drobo, the time of cashew not being ready for harvesting coincide with the long dry season in the north. So the females, some females come down to engage, to be employed, and they engage. So we are saying that they are not only in urban areas, they are also in some important agricultural areas. We also have, so these are some sample gosu, and the last one, the pronunciation is, the spelling is not consistent with. This is Nsoko. The pronunciation and the spelling is a bit confusing. It's like Nkoko or something. So we have that. So all these areas, we have that. Cashew, so plantation farms in these areas attract. Then we have also food crops farming are also attracting both males and female migration into these areas. Into these areas. Then we have mining and construction works. So we have all this from the top expanding services, female. In fact, female came into the migration equation in the late, particularly the mid-80s, that females were recognized. But before that, females were invisible in migration. Females were dependent migrants. A female migration dependent on the migration of a male as a husband or as a family member. As a husband or a family member. So it was completely out of place to see female migrating. So we didn't have independent or autonomous female migration. So from that time and up to this particular stage, we see females migrating in their numbers. One other previous element which was restrictive to female migration was the sociocultural element. The socioculturally, females' migration was an issue that was not accepted, particularly in the patriarchal society. Today, society, there's increasing acceptance of female migration. But some males, particularly husbands, they approve the decision to migrate reluctantly. Reluctantly. Because the issue is that the spouse cannot afford what she is demanding at the place of origin. So you cannot say, once you cannot afford, you can also say that person should stay. And part of the paper 2003, which I did at the Nando municipality, you will see that some females who, as a strategy, you see, the decision in the patriarchal society is supposed to come from the male, the husband. But where the female is difficult getting the approval of the husband, the female, around the time of migration, could pick a quarrel with the husband. Oh, we are not in talking terms. So I need not to inform you that I want to migrate. So, but gradually, there is an increasing acceptance of female migration from all the 5 regions in the northern sector of Ghana, because there is increasing awareness, globalization, and modernization. So there is a need for that. So females and males are now migrating in their numbers from that zone, northern Ghana. Contextual issue. Now, I use the drivers from the colonial government to the post-colonial government and unfairness in terms of development. I started with that. So with that, in that context, we are looking at the situation as it is. That discrimination have resulted in what we are going to see. So we have this in terms of contextual issue. These are the physical aspect. So that, as I said earlier on, the latitudinal stretch, the landmass was 54%, and then we had the rainfall element, as I mentioned. These are the physical dimensions. They are not obstacles. It is only when you are wearing the determinist spectacle. They are not obstacles. There are everywhere possibilities. Okay. So we have the map of Ghana, Ghana showing the zone that I'm talking about. Then we have this whole table. But this whole table is telling us that what I mentioned about the net migration, where we have the negatives, the 5 regions in the northern sector have negatives attached, and huge figures of negative attached, although Volta region also have a huge, but predominantly the 5 regions are noted for that. So negative net migration is all that this table tries to show. And it shows that they are moving from less endowed environment to more endowed environment. Yes, this is population 6 years and older. So you can see that population 6 years and older, 6 years and older, who are literate, we have lower proportions. We have lower proportions. And look at the southern. These are the lower proportions. We have the savannah. These are the lower proportions of that 6 years and older who are literate by region. So we see higher proportion for the other part. Now we also have this one, which is 3 years and older, that have never been to school. So you see higher proportions. Higher proportions for, this is the savannah, following that one, as compared to the rest of the country. Now we see proportion of household using unimproved source of drinking water. Improved and unimproved source of drinking water. So you see that with respect to improved drinking of water, across the country it's not bad. But in terms of unimproved source of drinking water, we have the proportions are very high. The proportions are very high in the southern in the northern settlement within the northern area as compared to the southern part. So that is an element of the inequality we talked about. Now we look at proportion of households without receptacle for solid waste by region, and also proportion of households using unimproved toilet facility by region. Unimproved toilet facility or receptacles, it is also for the zone that I mentioned, the northern area. So they have the long bars, as you can see, in the case of not using unimproved toilet facilities by region. So these are the inequalities are being pointed out. So the regional distribution of incidence of poverty. Poverty is endemic in the 5 regions, as I mentioned. Poverty is endemic. So both incident and the multi-dimensional poverty by Ghana Statistical Survey 2020, and then also Oxfam report of 2018 have also pointed out about the huge inequality in terms of North and South with respect to development. So poverty appears to be increasing, whereas poverty appears to be decreasing in the South. So you can see, even without talking about the table, look at the map alone. The map speaks for itself. Look at poverty. Very, 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 the area that we have. Poverty, this is the area. And you can see the dark red shows that poverty is really an issue in this area. Now we have distribution of trunk roads by region. Successive government road here and there. But look at it. An area of 54% of the landmass of the country can talk about it is predominantly gravel roads that are always easily washed away anytime there is rain. And look at them in terms of asphalted road, an area which are more than half of the country, 16% asphalt road. So roads have been talked about, but that is the situation we have. It's predominantly gravel roads. We look at the other one, I've talked about the roads, so doctor-patient ratio, and your guess is as good as mine. So I need not to waste time there. We are more proportion to a doctor as compared to the southern Ghana. So we have the northern Ghana has higher proportion of, now in terms of infant, child, and under 5 mortality, the proportions are also very high in northern. So you see that I didn't get the 2021 one. So these are the 10 regions, and you can see it. Infant and child mortality under 5. These figures are very high, and it is a reflection of the kind of health delivery system and personnel in the area. Implications of North-South seasonal labor migration. North-South seasonal migration, as I indicated in the pluralistic perspective of migration, it has the positive dimension. And these are the positive dimensions. My colleagues in migration studies have also done that. So I am not the only person pointing out these. There are others, but I am doing the presentation, and so I have pointed out mine. There are other colleagues, I recognize that. I recognize that the other colleagues are also have come out with this. So we are saying that new ideas, skills, knowledge for both agriculture and non-agricultural. We have remittances and durable goods and capital for investment and building projects, purchase of foodstuff. In fact, North-South migration ensures food security. Let me stress on that. It ensures food security. When the harvest over there is poor, the low harvest there, when they migrate, they are consciously in mind that this migration, the earnings that I make should go more of food items than non-food items because of that. So migration, in a way, ensures food security. At least they are able to get some earnings and then use that one to support, to be able to take care of themselves until the end. So generally, the migration from North-South is not completely bad. They have some positive element. And that is why it has continued from the colonial era of forced migration, post-colonial to voluntary migration, and it is still going on. At least. And even migration is still going on with this positive element, yet the 5 regions in the northern sector are still leading the poverty league table. So you can see that without migration, worse. Even with migration. So we look at, migration also have negative implications. And the negative implications, we have irregular school dropouts and then irregular school attendance, loss of agricultural labor and all that. HIV, initially at that time, Bolga, it was so low. We realized that the figures were shooting, and we knew that it was being brought from southern Ghana through female migration. So when they come back home, they are attracted. And then the young guys meet them, and there they are. So we have that. So areas. Now, migration and vulnerability. I'm working towards a north-south seasonal labor migration livelihood strategy, interrogating it. So I'm pushing towards that. Migration and vulnerability. Migration is associated with some vulnerability. Vulnerability could be individual vulnerability or context or structural vulnerability. Vulnerability is the insecurity of well-being, which includes environmental, ecological, economic, political, such that in the form of sudden shock, long-term trends, and seasonal cycle. Vulnerability are all challenges that make migrants unable to achieve their main motive for migration due to the vulnerability element. So we are all over since we started doing publication. North-South migration has been on since in the 60s, 70s, but my colleagues, we have not looked at the vulnerability, exposure to vulnerability. And that is one particular reason why I chose this title. It's going on, but have we looked at the vulnerability? Are they still earning as they used to? What do they say about migration as a livelihood strategy? And then we notice that the individual vulnerability, migrants per the individual. A migrant will have the individual vulnerability based on the migrant's socio-demographic characteristics. The socio-demographic characteristics could make a migrant vulnerable. She's a female migrant, and for that matter, she's vulnerable. She's of this age, and for that matter, is vulnerable. Language can bring about the vulnerability. In terms of health, can bring about vulnerability. But we are looking at the North-South migrants, as I showed. The North-South migrants do not have individual vulnerability. They decide to migrate, and to migrate, you assess yourself, you weigh yourself. So, the North-South migrants migrating, they take the decision of migration. And this is consistent with the selectivity concept in migration. In migration, we have a concept called selectivity concept. What is the selectivity concept? Migrants self-select themselves. I assess myself, I will be very competitive in the destination labor market. Per the knowledge that I have, per my capabilities, I can make it. I'm healthy. So it is not a problem of personal or individual vulnerability, but context or structural vulnerability. So, but for the migration to be a sustainable livelihood frame, sustainable, then it should be resilience to these trend shocks and seasonality. But unfortunately, this era, they are exposed to these vulnerabilities. So specifically, what vulnerabilities am I talking about? So you see that the emerging challenges associated with North-South seasonal migration are changing environmental conditions, erratic rainfall, and we may attribute it to climate variability or climate change, as they will say. Modernization of agriculture. Previously, the weeding, because North-South seasonal migrants are predominantly agricultural laborers. This time that some of them venture into other activities just to earn income, but it's principally from the word go, both males and females, is predominantly in agricultural side. So but we see the modernization of agriculture. So previously individuals being employed to weed, now chemicals are in place to do the weeding. Diminishing agricultural lands due to small-scale galamsey, we are all aware of that. And then we also have introduction of, for the female, this one, the fourth point goes very well with the females. You see, for the females, they were noted for the urban areas as carrying load from one point to the other for some payment. With the introduction of these pragia and aboboya, there's competition. That is a contest, one of the contest vulnerability that they face. Because these are competing with solely the monopolies in the field. The monopolies were the females kayaye. With the kayaye. So this is an aspect of vulnerability directly on the females. The expansion in non-farm enterprises. I also got information that there is an increasing people are moving away from farming to non-farming enterprises, possibly for the fact that they are not more earning much from that. And the increasing mechanization of construction work. Previously, the construction work was manpower, ability to do the now machines are in place to do what people used to be employed to do. Increasing prices of inputs. It also means you cannot engage more hands. Then we have unstable market prices of cash crops. So this one, for instance, input to buy, and this is an issue that we pick from Drobo, that the farmers are unable to afford the chemicals to facilitate increase in yield, to increase the hands that they employ, and what outbreak of diseases, and all these are the vulnerability within the contextual aspect that make the demand for north-south laborers, the demand for north-south migrant labor declining, particularly in agriculture. So with this, we had a research, and then I just gave some few questions to pick some qualitative. What do they say? They have been in this north-south migration for years. What are they saying about? So from their own voice, we are getting that there are no benefits now because of the use of weedicides to spray farms, as we saw. Then we also have this one also talking about agricultural lands not being available because of the galamsey, and there used to be enough rains and there was no use of machines. So these are the challenges. These are all the challenges that they are going through, and this is what I categorize as the vulnerability context. They are facing vulnerabilities, and that is affecting their demand. We also have this factor as that, particularly for the top one, if we have some work to do here, we will not have been going to the south anymore because it is no longer lucrative. I can no longer rely on north-south seasonal labor migration, but if there can be some jobs. So from the horses home up, they are saying that with the vulnerability elements I pointed out, it is not like it used to be. So north-south seasonal labor migration as a livelihood strategy. So based on all these prevailing vulnerabilities, we are concluding on this point that the services of seasonal labor migration, particularly in agriculture, is on the decline because of, and this could affect their livelihood. So we are saying that can no longer rely on it as the livelihood strategy. They have been in it for years, but they can no longer rely. This means that livelihood outcome could be deteriorating for majority who engage in agriculture. And link this to the pluralist perspective for migration, which says that the outcome of migration could be positive or negative. So this particular, the outcome of migration as a livelihood strategy is deteriorating, and they can no longer engage in that, particularly those who are in agriculture. And you saw the Den Bunahaf region, which I have mentioned, is a dominant area. Some are now considering alternative livelihood strategies, such as farming, livestock rearing, and that. Conclusions. North-South seasonal labor migration is a common livelihood strategy that has been adopted for northern Ghana to improve upon their livelihood status The drivers of North-South seasonal labor migration include poverty, poor physical environment, and differences in the socioeconomic opportunities and infrastructure development. There is evidence that North-South seasonal labor migration benefit both migrants and their family members in diverse ways, but there are some negative implications. North-South seasonal labor migrants are exposed to diverse vulnerabilities, the vulnerabilities that I talked about, leading to a declining demand for their services. And then the last point there is the decreasing demand for their services could worsen the poverty situation because they are already experiencing high levels of poverty, as we usually see per the publication from Ghana Statistical Service, National Development Planning Commission. The involvement of pupils and students in North-South seasonal labor migration are pointed out in terms of the characteristics. This is very serious and have long-term implications because it ultimately leads to intergenerational transfer of poverty. Your father was once a North-South seasonal migrant. You are unable to continue with your education so that you move out of poverty using formal education. So you are still also towing your parent line. So it brings about intergenerational transfer of poverty because some of them are involved and it leads to irregular school attendance and some even drop out from school. So given the inequality in development between northern and southern Ghana, which drive the north-south, so the issue of inequality, I stress the issue of inequality in terms of development between northern and southern Ghana is the issue. So we have it that this drive the north-south seasonal labor migration. And Ghana is not likely to achieve this, is not likely to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, 4, 6, and 10. What is 1? The 1 is about poverty. Southern Ghana is doing better than northern Ghana. So maybe if we are saying we have achieved goal 1, maybe it's part of the country. Part of the country have achieved Sustainable Development Goal 1 and not the entire country. So we have goal 2 is about hunger, and I told you migration is used as a food security strategy to ensure food security. 4 is about education. We talked about it. It's about formal education. 6 is water and sanitation, which I projected as inequality. 10, Sustainable Development Goal 10 is saying that by the year 2030, ensure that reduce inequality within and among countries. So mine here is internal migration, so the within aspect. And that is the goal 10, that the inequality should be reduced within and among countries. So, but here's the case, we still have vast inequality between northern Ghana and southern Ghana, as I've pointed out. And we also have from the 1992 Constitution, we have the principles of state policy in the 1992 Constitution upholds inequality. So the inequality, as it were, I have one point down there. Ghana is not likely to achieve these goals. There could be other goals, but these goals are what is very relevant to me. There could be other goals, given the key element, the disease, inequality between northern Ghana and southern Ghana. So we have some recommendation. And then the recommendation number 1 should be modernization of agriculture. The area is predominantly agricultural. So we just need to modernization of agriculture through all the ingredients that we need to modernize agriculture. So we see the example of Mali, Burkina Faso and Mali have such irrigation facilities. They have rugged terrain, unfertile lands, but they have consciously invested in agriculture, and we who have better physical environment in terms of rainfall and soil fertility, we depend on them for tomatoes and onions. So for the north, the number 1 should be modernization of agriculture. Then we have, there is the need to create, there is the need to create growth poles in these areas. Growth poles at Wa, Tamale, Bolgatanga, Damango, Nalerigu, so that these could serve as development points, so that the peripheral areas could be attracted, so that they will also grow. The late President Nkrumah tried that one through the industrial zones, creation of the industrial zones to create opportunity. So we are saying that when you create growth poles, instead of migration from the north-south, at least, some of these zones or classes, development poles, development zones will attract migration. So instead of migration to the south, these areas could absorb north-south, some north-south seasonal migration. And we are also aware of the Savannah Development Authority. The Savannah Development Authority is also an issue that we need to look at. The Savannah Development Authority, so many issues have been talked about it. It appears it is not proactive, and they need to be proactive to bridge the gap between the north and the south in terms of socioeconomic development. So we have that as the policies that I have suggested in terms of coming to contributions. So in terms of contribution, I can say that I've also been able, I came into University of Cape Coast in 1990 to 94, maybe consumer of knowledge. So today, and then with all humility, I'm able to also impart a bit, not much, as a senior apprentice. I'm only a senior apprentice waiting to my professors who are around as the master craftsmen to give me approval to also be considered as a young master apprentice. So at this present status, I am only a senior apprentice, trying to see whether I'll pass this that I'm presenting. So we have the contributions. So PhD, thesis supervision, 15 MPhil, and then 5 PhD students. I have 5 PhD students, and I don't know, we have 2 are in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Razak, are you there? Senior lecturer? Yes, I'm also part. Then we have Dorothy, still the same department. Is Dorothy around? Thank God, I've also contributed. Then we have associate professor at the UDS campus, Elijah Yendao. He told me earlier on that, their campus, there's some UTAC thing going on. So they have been summoned to Accra. So it's not there. And then there is Bismarck Nantoma in the Tanle campus for the department is population and reproductive health. He's also there, and there's one other one who is the Achana Fabian Achana. So these are, in a way, some of my modest contribution that I have made. In terms of the current ongoing PhD supervision, in the write-up, the chair mentioned 9. Now I have 12 PhD students. 12 PhD students. So this is where I find myself. So I pray that I should be able to survive under this huge load, in addition to other things that we do. Now, the human capital development, that is what I've also contributed, a modest contribution in a way. Now, we have in terms of publication, yes, I have 48 as it is. That is also my modest contribution. And there is a publication that, these are some of my publications, but particularly the 2023 one, Out-Migration of Married Women. Out-Migration of Married Women and the experiences of left-behind husbands in the Nandon municipality. You see, experiences of left-behind husbands. The left-behind, you see, is a patriarchal society where there's gender division of labor. This particular work is for males. This particular work is for females. So when a spouse, a wife migrates, do I need to continue? It's hell. Because that is the training that we have. And I'm pointing this out and I'm calling for, in the paper, I call for that. what we got, that gender division of labor in terms of our socialization process, has not helped us. And I propose in that paper that we should have that kind of socialization that the Akan have, the Ewe have. They, both males and female, they socialize them in everything. They socialize them in everything. So they have no problem pounding, staring. The men are fine. But we have that handicap. And particularly that female migration is going on in the area. The young ones that we are bringing out, we should give them the tool. We shouldn't be gender specific in terms of the training. So I will not say anything about the rest of the paper. But for this paper, this is the experience, and we need to change that kind of training that we experience. It has not helped us, and we are still suffering. So the younger generation should not get that training. So these are still part of that. Then the take home message is starting with the key word that I said, inequality. Inequality in development between northern and southern Ghana perpetuates poverty. You can put in all kinds of investment, but if you don't address the inequality, it perpetuates poverty in northern sector. And so it needs to be addressed through formal education, modernization of agriculture, as I mentioned, establishment of agro-based industries, and the provision of the needed infrastructure facility to bridge the gap and reduce north-south seasonal labor migration. So the enemy poverty is still being perpetuated, all because of inequality in development between northern and southern Ghana. Thank you.
Can we do it for Professor Tanle? Whilst he takes a seat, I would invite Mercy Achianu from the Department of Music to give us a musical interlude, after which Prof would make a few acknowledgements. I would invite Professor Tanle back on stage to make a few acknowledgements. Let's welcome him whilst he comes back.
Thank you. Yes, before I look at the acknowledgement aspect, I want to, the take-home message, which I want it to be as strong as possible, I am referring to quality formal education. And the message is quality formal education. Quality formal education, as other senior colleagues from the area and myself received, the quality was very high. We had all the ingredients, and perhaps that is why I am able to, in a modest way, also do this small thing that I've done. So quality formal education. So, acknowledgement. The first, it is by His grace and not by my might. You saw how the beginning was very rough. At the tender age, too young, and losing a father in 76, in the patriarchal society, when we finally went back to Tom Zenda Gown. A single mother, my mother suffered. My mother suffered. And all this is, I say, summarize it, by His grace and not my might. I have not done anything. He just facilitated it. So the Almighty God, thank Almighty God for everything in my life. And also want to thank my parents of blessed memory, both. As you have already said, we were six, or we are six in number, but I am the only person who was given the opportunity for formal education. So you can imagine in a family, one person, you can see, you are here, you know, the load on me. But in all this is by His grace and not my might that I have edging on, and I'm still on up to this level. So I thank my late parents for giving me the opportunity. And at times when I reflect on it, I say that maybe God told my parents that this one alone, so that He will come and carry. So at times when it's going to become tough and I'm complaining, extended Nicola, I say, look, be careful. You might have been chosen and sent to carry the load. I thank God. Now, I'm very grateful to Most Reverend John Yao Afuakwa, Catholic Bishop of Obuasi Diocese. My Lord Bishop would have wanted to be here, but he's outside the country and he has asked a Reverend Sister to step in for him. Reverend Sister, please, can I get a wave that my Lord Bishop's rep? I am very grateful to the past and present management of UCC. The appointment letter in 2004, Professor Emmanuel Adobe. Prof, very grateful to you. The senior lecturer, 2009, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Ajimai. Very grateful to you. Associate Professor, 2014, Professor, my own, Domin Dabire Kumpole. I'm very grateful to you. I am a progeny of Dabire. That is in the lineage in the Nandom area, the lineage. My father was a Dabiri. So that is my father sitting there. And all Dabiris. I'm very grateful to all Dabiris. Professor Joseph Gatti Ampere. 2018. Professor, promotion to professor. Prof, I am very grateful to you. Last but not the least, Professor Johnson Nyanko Boapon. Prof and fellow ATL Holler. I'm very grateful to you for all that you have done for me so far. You are still the Vice Chancellor, and I hope I will still get more. So I'm very grateful to you, including this opportunity given to me to come and also present my inaugural lecture. Prof, I am very grateful. Professor Kofi Awusaboa-Sare, Professor A.M. Abani, the master craftsman in the department when I came in. They have really brought us up. We have benefited from these two gentlemen. They gave us the opportunity to learn. You see, the other aspect is that they gave us the opportunity to learn through the projects and that. That went alone. Yes, some few coins were received. We spent in the past, but we are making good use of that exposure. That exposure that they made us personally to go into that. I have some photographs here, but I don't know whether they were projected. Mensa, they were projected, where you would have seen Professor Bani, all of us at the Tansu area on the mobile phone project. All of us in. Professor Bani, Professor Kofi Kumichirem, Kofi Awusaboa-Sare couldn't make it. We are very grateful for that which has benefited for
Words fail me.
And it is not that. I'm also very grateful
Say
to
thank you.
a professor. I consult beyond even academic. I can say 24/7. It's beyond academic. In a number of issues, if they are to arrest people that if you go and consult a professor outside your department, you will be arrested. I would have been arrested a long time. Professor S.B. Kendi, I salute you. I've consulted and continue to consult. My own Dabiri, my own father, Professor Kumpole, the divers, and it is the Dabiri blood that is working. I am grateful to you for everything. Your son is talking. I'm very grateful. We have my senior brother, former Provost of the College of Humanities and Legal Studies. The consultation there. This is my senior brother. So if I can't see it up, where can I go? I have to see him to be able to see it up. Professor Francis Eric Amwakondo, I'm very grateful to you. The College of Professors, where I belong, I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot from that. As I said, I have and continue to be a senior apprentice. Maybe after this, I may be officially declared as a young master craftsman from my professors. So I'm waiting. So I'm very grateful to College of Professors. Then we have Reverend Father Dr. Eugene Swomdere. I'm very, very grateful to Father. He's in Germany. He came over and he would have been here. But he came, and then the challenges, he wasn't able, but he came purposely for this, but he was not able to appear here today because of that. I'm very grateful to him particularly. That is my in-law, Reverend Father Dr. Eugene Swomdere. He took care of my wife seriously at that level through the education. So Father Eugene Swomdere contributed to the formal education of my wife. And through that, and approve generously the marriage. generously. Reverend, he's been hospitalized for, it should be over 2 years now or so. Reverend Monsignor James Robert Myers, the spiritual aspect. My children, myself, my wedding, very grateful to Father Reverend Monsignor James Myers. I'm very grateful. Then the priests and religious, Our Lady Seat of Wisdom, Catholic Church, UCC campus, for everything, the spiritual dimension. I'm very grateful. You have really put me in shape, and all other members that we worship together. I am very grateful to you for the network and for the diverse support. Very, very grateful. Reverend Father Raymond, I am very grateful to you. He for very, very, very special. It's so special that at times we say, Father, we are coming. And so we book the date, and then we are at the Jesuit home and get this support spiritually. Father, I'm very grateful to you. Yes, Father is sitting over there. And also very grateful to all staff of Department of Population and Health, the warm interaction that we have had over the years. I'm very grateful to all of you. And all staff of the academic and non-academic staff of the Faculty of Social Sciences, very grateful to you all. I'm also very grateful to Mr. and Mrs. Bayo Techimai. They would have liked to be here, but it has not been possible. So I'm very grateful to them. Then the Sunyani Wala Na Chief of Sunyani, the Wala Chief of Sunyani, Mbana Alaji Mumuni Sedu, my primary school mate. He has been very instrumental. We are still in touch since primary school in Sunyani, which I couldn't complete there. I have to go home. Nandom, involuntary migration back. So, but we are still in touch. He would have made it. Also very grateful to someone we started decades back, and is presently here. He came to support me, and the former Director General of Education, Dr. Jacob A.M. Kaur. Please, I am very grateful. And we also have one at ATL. That time there were this Bible, these bags where, as if you are preaching, those who move about to go and preach. This guy and myself. The primary school wasn't like this. It was a wooden structure. From the hall straight, Saturday morning we'll be there and we'll be coming in the evening. We've been together, Sunyani schooling for the 4 years, and we've still been together. And he's around today. He came with a wife. Mr. Abulai Adamu Baba, accountant, latest firm, Kumasi branch. Babs, assalamu alaikum. A former teacher after the middle school, he says they are doing something late entrance at Bole Secondary School. Would you like to go and try? Mr. Charles Kunyele, a retired educationist and former secondary school teacher. He's not here. I'm grateful to him because at that level, it was a turning point. Middle school completed. Oneness. Challenging period. He came in. He gave me the direction. So we have that. Members of Nines and St. John, Nines of St. John International, Our Lady Seat of Wisdom Commandery. We are still together, and we will continue to be together. We have some members here. The members here who give me a wave. Members of Bekwane family, Bekwane, the clan part, I'm Bekwane. Then the lineage part, I'm Sunda. My mother was Sunda. We have that light. So these two, so Bekwane, members of Bekwane family, they are here. I know the appropriate time they will be invited by Madam Akosua. In fact, some of these things might be repeated and that. I am very grateful. And last but not, my siblings are here. They will be invited by Akosia. And last but not the least, my wife, very supportive. Very, very, very supportive. Yes. Very, very supportive. You know, some of us, those of you who know me, they will say that the book, I could be perfectly described as a bookworm. And to be a bookworm means the home, you are a visitor for the home. So I've been visitor, and it tolerated me as a visitor. So, Mrs. Angelina Tanle. So, I think the rest and everybody in this area who have come from far and near, all friends, all of you, I've acknowledged you, and I'm very grateful to you for the time and the resources spent to come here to support me for this exercise. I'm very grateful to you, and when it's time for you to go back, I wish you traveling mercies, and I pray that bon voyage.
Thank you very much. Can we do it again for Prof? As I invite the College of Professors to briefly perform the robing ceremony, I'll call on the College of Professors to come up stage and briefly perform the robing ceremony.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
But what more can I say that you haven't heard?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Why you're here in Santa?
I thought I would hear something deeper. Otherwise, you are not accepting us. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. C'est mieux comme ça. You know, pardon my joy today. Yes. Because I have my son, he said it, succeeding me. And we both come from the only school. Those of you who don't know, please visit Burgana in Nandom. You see the only school. And that's where these professors are being produced. Professor Kendie is one. Professor Kendie is one from the only school. Professor Gallion is one from the only school. Professor Rufino Zilo, and many more are coming from the only school. Anyway, but this evening's assignment is very simple. As I said, pardon me for my joy, because I have a successor taking over from me. This is a symbolic assignment. All the gentlemen with the only lady you see in the middle there, dressed in blue or navy blue, I don't know. That is the assembly of professors. Many more are not here. So we are going to unrobe Professor Tanle, the speaker, take off the red, and then we wear him the blue, just as a symbolic, a token invitation. But thereafter, he still has a lot to do. That is the starting point. And we are now telling him that from today to go, he has to run faster than he has done to catch up. So he is a young mastercraft man. You're welcome. So I will invite Professor Paul Boabasua, Department of Physics, to assist Professor Johnson Nyakum Bwampong. Here he is not Vice Chancellor, please. He is a member of the College of Professors. To assist him to rope our newly made master craftsman. Thank you very much for your attention. Remove the cup. So thereafter, we will congratulate him and pave the way for others to come and congratulate him. If we don't do it, it's more like a secret society, so nobody gets close to him. All right. And very soon you will see us adorned in a different attire, because we are making a dress for professors, the College of Professors. So thank you very much once again. It's my turn to start.
I'll call on the registrar, Mr. Jephte Manolonyame, to take his turn. Dr. Mark Anthony Kobler, the librarian of UCC. I'll call on the former Pro-Vice Chancellor UCC, Professor Dora Francis Pedugwando, to also take her turn to congratulate Professor Tanle. Dr. Jacob Kor, former Director, General GES and Vice President, College for Development and Community and Organization, Sunyani. I'll call on the wife and children to take their turn to congratulate him. Professor Tanle's wife and son take their turn to congratulate him. They'll be followed by members of his family, his siblings, brothers and sisters, members of his external family, what do you call it, take their turn after his siblings. His siblings are taking their turn. Members of his external family, his in-laws, family will be followed by priest, religious of Our Lady Seat of Wisdom Catholic Church UCC, and other priests and religious from other dioceses who are here.
I don't see what for you are ya. Where do I come in? May the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you. Hey!
Priests. This is a citation from his family members in Cape Coast.
Okay, I'm doing this on behalf of the Patrick clan that Professor belongs to. It's called the Bekwane clan of Nando, and they are named after a certain bird that is so common in society. That's where the family is driving that name from. So it's kind of is it a white bird? Okay, so we'll understand it later. So it's written that this citation is gratefully presented to you in recognition and appreciation of your support and commitment to the Bekwane family union. The clan carries in its heart the cherished memories and uniqueness of your contribution, and therefore asks the good Lord to strengthen you. We appreciate your gentleness, calmness, and selfish sacrifice for us. You will forever be celebrated. May God equip you to become a great positive influence in the society and the world at large. We say, Aiko Garabenye.
Thank you. Bekwane clan here in Cape Coast. I'll call on the 1994 UCC undergraduate group if you're here. 1994 UCC undergraduate group if you're here. Members of Knights of St. John International, Our Lady Seat of Wisdom, Commandery. (1994) UCC undergraduate group. Members of Knights of St. John International, Our Lady Seat of Wisdom, Commandery, who take secondary schools, past students of Bole and Nandom secondary schools. Please take your turn to congratulate him. Bole and Nandom secondary schools. Staff of the Department of Population and Health, if you're here, take your turn. Staff of the Department of Population and Health, if you're here. Staff of his faculty can also take their turn now. And they will be followed by all friends and well-wishers. Staff of the Department of Population and Health, staff of his faculty, from his department, and that is the Department of Population and Health. And it reads, congratulations, Professor Augustine Tanle, Professor of Migration and Refugee Studies. You are a mentor, a leader, an inspirer, a motivator, and a scholar. You have played an instrumental role in the growth and development of the department. This is why we are proud of you and celebrate your promotion to the rank of professor. We say ayiko to you on your promotion to the rank of professor. And this is coming from his department. There's another citation, and this is from the Faculty of Social Science. A citation from the Faculty of Social Sciences.
On behalf of the entire Faculty of Social Sciences, we extend our heartfelt congratulations to you, Professor Augustine Tanle, on the occasion of your inaugural lecture. Your invaluable contributions to our university, specifically to the Faculty of Social Sciences, have been remarkable, and we are proud to have you as part of our academic community. We feel honored to celebrate this momentous occasion with you, and we eagerly anticipate the many more achievements and breakthroughs that lie ahead in your distinguished career. May your passion for research and teaching continue to make a positive impact in the area of migration and refugee studies. Congratulations once again, and we wish you a continued success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. That was a citation from the Faculty of Social Sciences. All friends and well-wishers who are here can have their turn now. All friends and well-wishers can have their turn now. And they would be followed by UCC Alumni Association. UCC Alumni Association. Taking their turn now, friends and well-wishers. UCC Alumni Association taking its turn now to congratulate Professor Tanle. Thank you very much, Prof. Whilst he exits the stage, he would shake hands with the Krontehima of Ogwa and Manrahin of Ogwa traditional area. Let's do it for Professor Tanle whilst he exits the stage. Thank you very much, sir. Let's do it for him whilst he takes his seat. Thank you very much, Prof. Please. A last one won't be bad. Let's congratulate him again on a fruitful inaugural lecture. Let me acknowledge a few dignitaries who have graced this occasion. I would first acknowledge the Vice Chancellor of UCC who chaired this occasion as well, Professor Johnson Yakob-Wampong. The Registrar, UCC, Mr. Jephte Emmanuel Onyame. Former Vice Chancellor, Professor Domweni Dabere Kumpole. Professor V.P.Y. Gajekbo, he's a former President, Central University. Professor John Nelson Bois, thank you for being here. Professor George K.T. Odru, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, thank you for being here, sir. And Professor Dora Francisca Idubwando, also a former Pro-Vice Chancellor. I would acknowledge Nananom who are present. Nana Kwekwenu the second is Mariahin Ogwa Traditional Area. Nana, thank you. Nanamba Iyaba the first is Queen Mother of Ifutu and Krontehima of Ogwa Traditional Area. Nana, thank you. Mr. Anthony Yeboah Tebri is Registrar National House of Chiefs, Kumasi. Professor Moses Jojo Egan is Provost of the College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences. Kindly, let's acknowledge him. Professor Martins Eko is Provost, College of Health and Allied Sciences, UCC. Professor Isaac Gallion is the immediate past Provost of the College of Distance Education, UCC. Thank you, Prof, for being here. The university's librarian, Dr. Mark Anthony Kobler. Thank you, sir. I would quickly go on and acknowledge the College of Professors, Professor Livingston Sam Amwa, Professor Albert Machiste Abane, Professor S.B. Kendi, Professor P.K. Baswa, Professor Francis Amukwando, Professor David Taiduku, Professor Samuel Iwanyamiche, Reverend Professor Kankam Bwedu, Professor Sarah Dakwa, and Professor Eugene Date. Thank you so much, College of Professors. I'll call on our chair to give us his closing remarks. Let's welcome Professor Johnson Yakob-Wampong.
So thank you, MC. Before I start making my remarks, I would like to commend the faculty members in the Department of Population and Health. For 3 consecutive times, they have been giving inaugural lecture. And so I asked Professor Awusabu, when was the department established? And he also told me that it was through his instrumentality that we got the Department of Population and Health. And that is where we are getting most of our publications from. So Population and Health continue to do the good job. I also want to say that 2nd August, we are also going to have another inaugural lecture, this time from Professor Ishmael Mensah. Is he here? Yeah. Okay. You all bear with me that Professor Augustine Tanle has done justice to the topic, interrogating North-South seasonal labor migration in Ghana as a livelihood strategy. And he started with the motivation. He's gone through it from the Sunyani to back home, seeing people migrating to find jobs and to be able to survive. He now taught us that we don't have 3 northern regions or 5 northern regions, but we have 5 regions of northern Ghana. He talked about positive and negative migration, and then also his return to his hometown to continue his education was involuntary. He would not have wished to go back, but because of what happened to him, he had to go back, and he had to struggle. And in nature, animals, including humans, I'm a biologist, that's why I'm saying that. Animals, including humans, migrate from less resource endowed regions to where they can get more resources for survival. And so he used Bible and Quran to support this, that it is not a recent phenomenon. It's been there for a very long time. And he used an adage in Akan, say, "Anumentua, O brother, if you do not move to ensure that you get food to feed the family and yourself, you will not continue to exist." It's about survival. Then came differentiation between mobility and migration. So today we have done geography. We thank you, Prof. Tanle. Then you talk about the theoretical framework, push and pull factors. And so people move from a place of where we have deterioration of maybe it could be political, economic, whatever, to a place that they have their peace of mind and will be able to add more value to themselves and also be able to survive. But moving from one place to another, going from the known to unknown, it means that you must locate somebody there. And depending upon the networks, you can then move. Before you go, at least you would have identified somebody who will provide you a place for the meantime to actually, somebody to host you. And that the network facilitates migration. He also talked about the pluralist perspective, and then mentioned that this may be limited to individuals and households. Drivers of north-south seasonal labor migration. And he actually went into history that during the policies of the colonial masters actually more or less started the migration because they were trying to get resources to be exported to their home countries. They identified areas where they can get the resources and then took labor from the less endowed areas to make sure that they are able to produce the things they need and then send to their home country. And so people were forced to migrate from the north to the south. And not only that, because they were forced, they looked for or identified able-bodied men. But my brother, you're also able-bodied man. Able-bodied man. And then even after independence, this did not stop. Still the migration was going on because the post-colonial government were also following the same policy. But we all know that at the time of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the accelerated educational policy established schools in many areas of the country. But we also know that it's because of the migration brought about inequalities, but education is the equalizer. And therefore, the president establishing schools in very many areas of Ghana helped to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. He also continued with General Kutu Echampon's time. And I think that is a Operation Feed Yourself. So wherever you are, you need to work to do agric and make sure that you get food to feed yourself. So still in the north, as compared to the south, we have limited socio-economic and infrastructure development. More infrastructure and development happening in the south than the north. And that has brought about widespread poverty and deprivations. And this also depends upon the environmental factors, and that he classified it as determinist. And then we have possibilist factor. So these are the two schools of thoughts. And he said that he belongs to the latter. And it's true, people can change their circumstances. And we all know areas where he mentioned about Burkina Faso and Mali, where they are doing a lot of agricultural activities and sometimes even exporting to Ghana. So the northern region is identified to be very rich in that soil fertility. So if we concentrate on agriculture, we'll be able to produce more, and then it will prevent migration. You talk about social cultural elements, the passage, rites of passage and marriage as also factors of migration. Even in the Bible, after you have married, you need to move from your mother's and father's house and then to another place. Expanding services, especially in the southern sector, also attract more people, especially females, agricultural activities, and then also mining and construction. So he also gave physical characteristics of the northern region, and then the distribution, even population in terms of gender, in terms of children and other things. We have more children in the south than in the north. Then at all other indicators of development, doctor-patient ratio, very less doctors in the north than in the south. Then you talk about the implications. He first focused on positive, and the positive that if you migrate and you get good environment, it brings about acquisition of new ideas, skills, and knowledge. And then the negative, you talk about the spread, especially those who go back. When they go back, they take with them diseases. Yes, and so with even the developed countries and developing countries, some new diseases more or less get to the developing countries, especially from those who are visiting the developing countries. Then vulnerabilities, also talking about even with the migration, at certain points they face difficulties, and that affect them. They come to the south, and these days, because of modernization of agriculture, they may not need their labor, and diminishing agricultural lines, increasing mechanization also affect the labor, so they don't get the jobs, and they have to go back. Unstable market prices of cash crops, increasing prices of inputs, and outbreak of diseases. So, in conclusion, he said that the north-south labor migration is a strategy for survival, and that the main driving force is about inequalities in economic or distribution of resources. And he said that if nothing is done about it, Ghana will not be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. He made recommendations that for people to stay back in the north, there should be modernization of agriculture. After all, the land is fertile. Then creation of growth poles. We need to identify certain areas in the north and make sure that we provide the facilities there so that it will be a pull factor for those who are in remote areas. And then he also talked about his contribution. My brother, you have done well. You have helped train many people. He didn't leave this out by saying that we have left behind husbands. That's a common thing in the north. And then he also talked about promotion of non-specific gender training. That we should train all our children equally so that one will not depend upon the other, especially looking at the female and male. What men can do, women can also do, and even better. So, take-home message is that inequality in development between the North and Southern Ghana perpetuates poverty in the Northern Ghana. But we know education is the equalizer. So if we are able to give education to all people, it means that even from the poor background, you'll be able to come out of poverty. The reason why some of us are here. Professor Tanle, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chair. I'll call on Reverend Professor Kankam-Buidu to give us the closing prayer. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Humbly let us be on our feet as we register our appreciation unto the Most High God. And so, Father, once again, we are grateful unto you. Lord God Almighty, we thank you for this opportunity of listening to your Son. Your word has been fulfilled and established. Our eyes have seen the inaugural lecture. We pray, O Lord, that this inaugural lecture may help us find solutions to problems, especially the inequality between and among us. As we are about living, we pray, O Lord, that you carry us on your eagle wings to our various destinations. Now, the blessings of the Lord, may the Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord keep his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace this day and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you very much. We shall remain standing as the Vice-Chancellor and his entourage would exit this auditorium. We would have a photo session out of this auditorium. After they exit, the rest of us can equally follow. Thank you very much. We can all exit now.